I got an email the other day about a new 1176 plugin that is coming out. In fact, it is out today. And it says that it works via neural networks, machine learning, all that kind of stuff. And it got me thinking, how do other plugins work? It's something to do with code, I believe. I don't know nothing about it. But it got me thinking, well, 1176s all sound fairly similar. And as I found, they do all sound fairly similar. But the way they actually operate is very different. And that may sound like a weird thing to say, because surely the way they operate is kind of a reflection of the way they sound, or the other way around. But I've got some popular 1176s here, and the way they actually work is very different. And the way that you manipulate them is also very, very different. So let's have a look at some 1176s. Let's have a look at this new 1176 and see, is it the same? Is it different? Are the other ones all the same? Are the other ones all different? I don't know. Let's find out. So the new one is the NN76 from Tree DSP. It's cool. I do like it, but I like it in kind of the same way as I like other 1176s, which is kind of a broad stroke thing. But what got me thinking was, if you have a look at all these ones that I've got here. So I've got the UAD one because they gave it out free, and I'm getting about the same gain reduction on all of these. But have a look at this. Input is around 12 o'clock, output is around 12 o'clock. I had to slam the input on this one and bring the output down to get about the same amount of gain reduction, which got me thinking. And then I took a look at the Slate Digital one, which again was completely different. I had to boost that up to like 3 o'clock and bring the output down to get about the same amount of gain reduction. And then I've got so many plugin windows here. And then the Purple Audio one, which I use quite a lot, I had to max out the input to get it to do the same amount of gain reduction at the same settings. And I've got the attack is on the slowest and release on the fastest on all of them. The one kind of outlier here is the Logic one, which is a perfect example of how all 1176s can sound pretty similar, but they all operate completely differently, because you've got really too much control. You can't get the attack fast enough, even on a slower setting. The threshold, what's that all about? How does that work on 1176? I don't know. They all sound different, kind of, but I think that difference is really a reflection of the way they work and the way that I just couldn't get them all to do the same thing regardless of the meters. The meters we're going to come on to in a moment, because they all work crazy different as well. But just take a listen to all these, because I kind of found it a little bit interesting to compare them. So here's the UAD one, and then we'll go the new one, the Tree DSP, NN76. Logic one, I will play you it, but I'm going to kind of skirt over that because it just annoyed me. And then we've got the Slate one and the MC77 as well. So here it is. Oh, we're going to listen to it in the mix as well, because that's kind of important. But now we'll just listen to it on its own. Here we go. Okay, the thing you've probably heard there is that the four, should we say, true 1176s, the UAD, the Tree DSP, the Purple Audio one, and the Slate one, all sound very, very, very similar. I'll give them that. Some have got a little more bottom end, some have got a little more smack, which we're going to go on to. But the Logic one, I don't know, it's familiar to like 1176 kind of stuff, but in my opinion, I'm always trying to be fair with this. I'm always trying to get them so that they're the same amount of gain reduction, same output and everything. This is just fraught with danger. There's too much here that you don't need, or that isn't on the original 1176s. So I'm going to discount that because it just sounds so different, but I thought it worth mentioning. So if we take that out of the equation, we have the UAD one versus the NN76. So the thing that confuses me here, all right, let's bring them over it, is if I get the gain reduction on the VU meter to be about 6 dB, that's kind of, actually, let's put them over it, about 6 dB, that's kind of where I'm aiming for, then this gain reduction meter at the top here on the True DSP one reads something completely different. Now, I understand that VUs take quite a long time to register. I get that. So I can only go by what's kind of the commonalities between them. But to me, they do sound different. Let's just take a listen to the UAD versus the NN76. And I need you to let me know which one you prefer, because I kind of feel like I know which one I prefer, but it's also minute, which is maybe a good thing for the NN76, like new plugin company, and they're making something that sounds as good as the Universal Audio. I don't know, but have a listen and just be aware that although I'm trying to get the same kind of gain reduction here, this one is going to say something completely different, and the input and output controls are wildly different. Why that is, again, just to reiterate, I know nothing about making plugins, something to do with code. Don't know why that is, but it's interesting. So all of the settings the same. Let's take a listen. You ready first? Come on, you can't tell me that they're not like more or less identical. Are there differences? I don't know, there probably are. I always find that in the moment when I'm doing these videos, I'll say stuff like, oh, they sound absolutely identical, and I'll listen back afterwards and it's like, oh, what did I say that for? They're completely different. But I feel like they are pretty flipping similar, to be perfectly honest. Let's bring the Slate Digital one into the mix as well, because I think that's interesting. So we'll go between this one and then this one and then this one. Again, I've tried to get about the same amount of gain reduction. Whether I have or not, I don't know. Shout at me in the comments. People do anyway. Right, so let's go for UAD first. Over to Slate. Yeah, so I kind of feel like the Slate one, there's a bit of a tone to this snare, a bit of a which in the mix sounds fine, but soloed, you know, it sounds well, it does. But I kind of feel like the Slate is bringing out that low end quite considerably. The NN76, the Tree DSP one, is bringing it out a medium amount, and then the UAD one is kind of getting rid of it to an extent. And on that basis, I kind of feel like the UAD has got kind of the least bottom end. Just go between the Slate one and the UAD, starting off with Slate. Just listen to the bottom end. I don't know, has it? Now I'm listening to it, I kind of feel like they're so similar. They're just so similar. And the price points of these are very different. Well, the UAD, typically you can only get it in the part of the whole UAD thing. I got it for free because they were very kindly giving it away free a little while ago. That's the only reason I got it. This NN76, I don't know, I'm going to put the price on the screen now because I haven't got it in my head. I don't think it's very expensive though. And then the Slate one, well, we all know Slate stuff, if you buy them individually, they're quite pricey, but if you get them as part of the bundle, then they're fairly inexpensive. The MC77 though, I've used this quite a lot and I do like it. And the problem here, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if there's something that I'm doing wrong. It might be this headroom. No, but that's at 0. Either way, I'm having to absolutely slam this up to actually get the same amount of gain reduction from it, and it's not being detrimental. Like, it sounds kind of similar, so it's not really a bad thing, but that just felt kind of weird to me. So let's go through, let's take and listen to the MC77 first, because it does sound good, but they all sound good. Okay, so the Slate one is quite considerably louder. and those ones were all kind of level matched. So I think, or maybe I'll just bring that one up. Let's listen again. MC77 first. And a bit. I've got gain reduction on the input, but that was going the wrong way. I think it's just a little bit of a delay. The problem is, though, this is not getting right up to 6 as the other ones are. I can't go any further, and it's weird. I don't know. On we go. Yeah, so I kind of feel this MC77 is a bit smashier. Whether that's because I've had to crank the input up to like 0 or just as far as it will go, I don't know. But there are differences, but they are all very, very similar in the actual sound. And I kind of feel like the main differences lie in the fact that they operate so differently. Just look at these input controls for a start. We can all agree that we're getting, like, the gain reduction is more or less the same, within a dB or so. And the output, now I've altered it, is within a dB or so. The input on this one is at -24. At this one, it's at 0. At this one, it's at -5. At this one, it's at -12. Now, I know you can alter the amount on there, but you can't the other ones. So that almost makes it so that the apples and apples you are comparing make it kind of, I don't know, Granny Smith apples versus Pink Lady apples, both of which are my favourite apples, by the way. So it makes it very difficult. But the big thing here is, are you going to hear it in the mix? And no, you're probably not. Let's take a listen, though, because I think that's one thing that is just so important. You know, when you're actually comparing plugins, you're going through your chain. Oh, by the way, this is going through another chain as well. So it's being compressed, like, at the end. No, it's not being compressed, actually. It's going through a little bit of, like, sweetening at the end. It's not actually got a compressor on it, but whatever. So it's like, when you actually put it in the mix, those differences either become absolutely massive or absolutely minute. But one thing I notice also is that when you have slight volume differences, if you have two sources that you're playing next to each other, like A being on their own, and they sound pretty similar, once you get them in the mix, you start to really hear, well, that one is actually loads louder, which is weird. But we struggle on. So anyway, let's go from top to bottom. So we're going to hear the UAD first, and then I'm going to mute it, and there'll probably be a bit of nonsense, but then you'll hear the NN76, and then the Slate, and then the MC77. I'm going to leave the Logic one out of it because there's just too much to go into. All right, UAD first in the mix. Here it comes. In the mix, gun to my head, if I had to say, I would say that the MC77 is giving a little more smack, is giving a little more weight to it. But I can't help thinking that is not unrelated to the fact that I've had to absolutely slam that. So whatever analog modelling goodness is going on in here is maybe being accentuated a little bit. I don't know for sure. Again, for the third time, I don't know anything about making plugins. But the thing that occurs to me is that this NN76 does not sound really any different to the UAD one or the Slate one in the mix. If you solo something, you're maybe going to hear it. But to me, the real differences between these are just the way in which they work, the way in which you have to absolutely slam the input on one of them to get it anywhere near the same input as another one. So the operating levels are unbelievably different. If anyone knows why that is, please drop me a message. I think it's quite interesting that that is a thing. You would imagine that if all of these are as closely modelled to the 1176s as they kind of say they are, then you would expect them all to be the same. From the kind of marketing blurb and the manual, I can see that on this NN76, they've gone to great details to get it as close to a one-to-one of the original hardware as they can. So I can only assume that that is what the hardware does. To get this amount of gain reduction, to get this amount of level, you'd have to do this. Any 1176 that I've tried, you haven't. You've had to do a more or less the same thing as you've got going on the UAD. Like, that's not uncommon to have it like that. Maybe cranked a little bit more on the output down if you're really trying to slam it. But I don't know. To me, the real difference between the 1176s is not the sound, because the sound is pretty similar. It's just the way in which they operate. And the Logic One, if you're doing a comparison with 1176s, just throw it in the bin, because it sounds fine, but it just doesn't work the same way as these do. And actually, none of them work the same way. Yeah, weird that, isn't it? Anyway, let me know what you think, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.